Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Thursday. Deconstructing Ottawa's new promise to crack down on crime.
Criminals and repeat offenders off the streets, full stop.
What it means for bail, sentencing, and policing.
There is an expectation that Stellantis would meet its obligations.
What the future of a major auto plant is hinging on.
You should know that children are on the plane, and you should make sure that they are safe.
Plus, a family's fight to sit next to their toddler.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
A promise today from Ottawa to get tougher on crime. After years of pressure from the provinces and police, the Prime Minister says a new bill to be tabled next week will crack down on violent and repeat offenders through strong reforms on sentencing, on bail. And there's a pledge to hire more police. We have insight from CTV's Rachel Aiello in Ottawa. Okay, Rachel, how significant is this?
Hey, Sandy. The Prime Minister's announcement is significant in two ways. Mark Carney advancing bail reform means the policy changes that many have long called for could soon become law. And politically, the government is keying in to Canadians' heightened public safety concerns.
The federal government says a crackdown on repeat violent offenders is coming.
It will no longer be up to the Crown to prove why someone should stay behind bars. It will be up to the accused to prove to the court why they can be trusted to be released.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says next week the Liberals will introduce long-awaited bail reform legislation to keep those accused of serious crimes out of the community. The new bill will also amend the criminal code to allow consecutive sentencing for those convicted of multiple crimes, end conditional sentences for a series of sexual offenses, and impose tougher penalties for organized retail thefts. These amendments are aimed at addressing headline-making crimes, including the surge in some cities of brazen smash-and-grab robberies. But they're getting mixed reviews from criminal defense lawyers.
And I think it's a measured approach. But at the end of the day, they just send a message because it don't really change that much, I have to say. But it sends the message that there is public concern.
I think it may work to curb that type of behavior, but I also think it is a ton of lip service.
These measures come after concerted pressure from premiers, police forces, and opposition parties.
And yet Mark Carney has done absolutely nothing to reverse the Liberal laws that caused this chaos and carnage.
Today, Carney also announced a nearly $2 billion funding boost for the RCMP. Coming in the next budget, the money will go towards hiring 1,000 new officers, increasing the cadet recruitment allowance, and dedicating more personnel to probing financial crimes.
The devil is in the details. We're going to take a look at what comes out next week, but we're happy to see that we were listened to and some of the things we advocated for were included.
Carney is set to continue his pre-budget pre-positioning tomorrow. The Prime Minister has plans to make what he called an important announcement on border security.
All right.
Sandy?
Thanks so much, CTV's Rachel Aiello in Ottawa. So we wanted to know how these new changes will play out for those headline-grabbing crimes that Rachel mentioned in her report, like smash and grab robberies and liquor theft. We asked CTV's Alison Hurst to investigate, and she went out to speak to retailers about cracking down on those fast and furious, in-your-face offences.
Thieves smashed jewelry cases at a store north of Toronto yesterday evening.
Well, he's going to make a break for it, boys.
York Regional Police tracked their getaway car and boxed them in.
Okay, Air 2, they have the vehicle contained. We've got runners.
Apprehending 4 of the 5 suspects.
We found that the jewelry store smash and grabs, particularly, well, I can only speak for York Region, kind of went quiet. And now we're starting to see, I mean, we had 2 at the same store last week in Vaughan, and then one in Newmarket last night.
A crime happening at stores right across the city, province, and country. Today, the Prime Minister announced plans to table a bill that will impose harsher penalties for organized retail theft.
No worker in a neighborhood convenience store should have to worry about being robbed by gangs or feeling that no one can intervene and no one will face justice.
This Scarborough jewelry store was targeted by thieves back in April. The store owners, their children, and a customer were all inside at the time.
We're still working on a little bit more repairs for the shop for further security and just a little bit of things that needs to be done. But we did open doors back in September.
She says while the legislation is good, the federal government needs to deal with the root cause of why these crimes are happening.
Everything's super expensive. And to be honest, a lot of people are struggling with their everyday needs. And until that is solved, I think crime is going to happen no matter what.
According to the CFIB, crime has made it hard for employers to hire staff.
Finally, Ottawa is taking action on a problem that's been growing very, very quickly among the retail community and in businesses more broadly.
More details on the legislation will come later, but public safety analysts suggest including some sort of directive to judges in relation to either a minimum or maximum penalty.
I think what needs to be done, and whether or not they can do it legislatively, is ensure that there's a minimum penalty, perhaps, for some of these really very high profile and publicly alarming crimes that are being committed.
As for that latest smash and grab, York Regional Police say the white Mercedes getaway car used was stolen from a Vaughan home yesterday morning in a home invasion. Police recovered about $100,000 worth of jewelry.
There is. Got him.
Alison Hurst, CTV News, Toronto.
Now, on the matter of automaker Stellantis moving its planned production of the Jeep Compass from Brampton, Ontario to the state of Illinois, the Prime Minister said he's had a conversation with the company's president and received assurances. What was promised and what happens going forward is the focus of our next report from CTV's senior political correspondent Mike Lecouture, as is Canada's trading relationship with China. Okay, Mike, what do you have?
Well, Sandy, we got some insight today from the Prime Minister on the status of both files. And he did share parts of the conversation he had with the head of Stellantis.
They're looking at different model being produced in Brampton.
That assurance came in a phone call the Prime Minister had 2 days before the company announced it was moving $13 billion in investment to the U.S. Mark Carney also reminded the global CEO that Stellantis committed to maintaining its full Canadian footprint in Brampton in exchange for federal and provincial money.
We need to be strong in terms of making sure that companies that have done well by virtue of the various subsidies or initiatives that have been made meet their obligations.
It comes as Ontario's premier has implored the federal government to hit back on American trade policies that Doug Ford says paved the way for Stellantis to move production.
There's times to hit back and there's times to talk, and right now is the time to talk.
Prime Minister.
That restraint could be tied to a bigger calculation on Canada-U.S. relations.
This is China versus the world.
The American Treasury Secretary is calling on Western allies like Canada to back the U.S. in the trade war with China.
We're going to have a fulsome group response to this because bureaucrats in China cannot manage the supply chain or the manufacturing process for the rest of the world.
That comes after China's ambassador to Canada told CTV's Question Period that if Canada removes its 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs, China would remove tariffs on Canadian products like canola.
It's not that simple. Nor is the relationship in the auto sector that simple as just open a door here with China with no impact on the relationship with the United States and the impact on activity here in Canada.
In the middle of all this, plans are underway for Carney to meet with President Xi Jinping at the end of the month on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea. Sandy?
Mike Lecouture in Ottawa. Well, new information today that will come as no surprise to many home sellers. The average price nationwide continues to fall, while the number of homes sold in September also fell. But there was a silver lining for renters. CTV's John Venevali-Rao now with a picture on housing. The data is painting. John.
Sandy, the new numbers suggest plenty of potential buyers remain on the sidelines, even with interest rates coming down. The Canadian Real Estate Association, or CREA, putting out their figures for September, and they show the number of homes sold fell slightly compared to August, down 1.7%. Now, they do note it was still a better September than they saw last year, but prices also continuing to fall. The national average price down 3.4% compared to a year ago, and the average home price now $676,000. Some of the price fall continues to be because of the plunge in condo prices in Toronto, but prices in some provinces are actually stable, and many think they have further to fall in provinces like Ontario.
The condo crash just continues. Like it seeks new lower levels literally every month.
Still, there's a lot of hesitation in the market, and we're seeing buyers really take their time here.
Now, there was some good news for renters, with the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation showing an uptick in new home starts and construction, up 14% in September compared to August, and much of that rental units. Rents have been coming down in Ontario and BC this year, and it's expected the new supply of apartments could drive down rents even further. Sandy.
Okay, John, thank you. What's not down is the number of hate crimes in Canada. After 6 years of increases, the numbers remain high. More than 2,200 hate crimes have been reported to police in 2025, down just 3 incidents from this time last year. 45% were related to race or ethnicity, nearly 23% by religion, and 12% because of sexual orientation. Well, if you are a parent, our next story won't sit well with you. Imagine boarding a flight, toddler in tow, only to have your child seated elsewhere. And when you ask for help, staff reply, "You're on your own." Well, that's just a headline for a family traveling with a little one. There's more. CTV's Adrian Gobriel now on the incident and the fight for air passenger rights. Adrian.
Sandy, one Canadian family are on a journey for accountability after their 18-month-old baby daughter was assigned to a seat all on her own while on board an Air Canada Rouge flight, rows away from her mother and father.
A sun-kissed Florida vacation ended in a cloud of uncertainty. The McLaughlin family's journey home to Toronto began with a 5-hour flight delay. Then the family of 4 learned that their 18-month-old daughter, Margaret, who they call Molly for short, had been placed on standby.
I said, how could she be on standby?
Eventually given a ticket, the McLaughlins then realized their toddler had been assigned to a seat all by herself, more than 6 rows away from her closest parent. Greg McLaughlin claims Air Canada flight attendants then refused to ask customers to switch seats, leaving the family to figure it out with passengers on their own.
You are a very large company that operates airplanes. You should know that children are on the plane, and you should make sure that they are safe, full stop.
Regulations state that children under 5 should be in a seat adjacent to their parent.
Hello, Greg. This is Amanda from the Canadian Transportation Agency.
Following a months-long investigation by the Canadian Transportation Agency, the CTA left this voicemail for the family last week.
We want to inform you that the investigation has now concluded and no enforcement action will be taken at this time.
I don't know why the Canadian taxpayer is paying for that agency. I'm not sure who they're protecting.
The maximum fine Air Canada could have received is $25,000. Consumer advocates believe the lack of action highlights a systemic issue.
The Canadian Transportation Agency and the government are serving the airline's private, financial, corporate interests instead of the public interest of passengers.
In an email, the CTA say their investigation found that the infant was seated with her family for flight AC 1659 and that no infraction to the regulations was found. According to her father, the only reason Molly ended up seated with her family was because her parents and passengers fixed the issue, while Air Canada staff refused to help. An email from Air Canada in part states that the airline has since taken measures to reinforce compliance through improved seat assignment technology. Air Canada eventually offered the family vouchers for future travel. The McLaughlins have declined.
For the family, they say this has never been about compensation. They never asked for vouchers. They simply want Air Canada to be held accountable. In their case, it's something they believe the Canadian Transportation Agency has failed to do. Sandy.
CTV's Adrian Gobriel. Coming up after the break, tracking Canada's cartel footprint.
Where is that from? That's from Nobleton, Ontario.
The surprising ways drugs are being smuggled out of this country. A W5 investigation has found that Canadian drug smugglers are going to extraordinary lengths to move their product into New Zealand and Australia, and there Methamphetamine prices are among the highest in the world. Investigative journalist Avery Haynes was at a mail sorting facility in Sydney when a package from Ontario set off red flags. Have a look.
This is Australia's largest mail sorting facility in suburban Sydney. Australian border officer Vero Petros wants a closer look at this box.
Where is that from? That's from Nobleton, Ontario.
Toys from Ontario. The green is plastic, but there's also a light orange color, a flag for drugs.
We can see a little bit of glue residue on the side. So what we'll do is we'll cut into it and just see what we can find on the inside.
And then jackpot.
Can I see inside the hollow? Oh, there's more in there.
So there's another bag in there as well.
All right, and Avery is with us now. So little white bags, clearly an indication of drugs. So what happens after they're discovered?
So that box was filled with plastic toys from Nobleton, Ontario, which is a tiny community outside just north of Toronto. And many of those toys had been cut in half, stuffed with meth, and then shipped to Australia. And I don't know if you could see on the picture there, we could see the address of where it was sent from and a woman's name, Michelle Kahn. And so we went up there to Nobleton, knocked on the door, and the homeowners were horrified, shocked, and actually fearful because they don't know a Michelle Kahn. They have no idea why their home was selected, but it appears to have been just randomly selected, their address in Nobleton.
So the fact that you walked up there and told them for the first time that their name appeared on a label, that was the very first time they even knew that they were, I don't want to use the word implicated because they're certainly not, they're innocent people, but to find out that they are somehow involved?
I took the video that we just all watched and
Right.
I showed it to them, and so they're looking at it, and he said, what are those little pigs? What's that little pig? What's
Right.
inside there? And I said, that's drugs, but look at the label. And he used an expletive that I won't repeat, but
Right.
he was, and then his wife called and she said, I mean, are there eyes on us? They were scared.
I bet. Who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much, Avery. All right. We're certainly going to take a break at this point, but before that, let's tell everyone about where you can see Avery's special, Part 3 of Cartel Canada on CTV National News with Omar Sachedina tonight at 11. We'll be back. BC's Interior Health Authority says it is disappointed by the decision made by all 7 of the obstetrician gynecologists at Royal Inland Hospital in Kamloops to resign their hospital privileges. In a letter to community health care providers, the doctors say safety issues stemming from a changing workload have pushed them to the point they are unable to continue with in-hospital care without more support from the province and the authority, which is now said it is stepping up its recruitment efforts. A player beware message now for those who love pickleball, a one-time backyard pastime with a quirky name that's become one of the fastest growing sports in Canada. A new study shows it is serving up a growing number of eye injuries. CTV's Alex Carpa on what you can do to lob safely.
The sport of pickleball is a hit with Canadians and is growing in popularity.
Fell in love with it instantly.
Tony Scavarelli has been playing for 3 years. He likes it so much, he became an instructor.
Pickleball is probably one of the best sports for you physically and mentally.
But as the sport's popularity grows, so too do the number of injuries. In addition to the regular knee and shoulder pains, a new study from the Journal of the American Medical Association finds that pickleball-related eye injuries have increased over the past 4 years.
You're generally a little bit lower. People lob in this game a lot more than they were before as well, and so you have that downward momentum if people just may not have their paddle in the right place to secure it. And also just not expecting it as well.
The report finds that some of the more severe eye injuries include orbital fractures and retinal detachment from either the pickleball itself or the paddle.
So whenever something's very popular, you see more injuries.
Optometrist Dr. Nadine Shelton says she saw a handful of patients for pickleball-related injuries this past summer. She says people should wear eye protection even though it's not mandatory.
We're going to recommend wearing glasses, wearing sunglasses. There is sports glasses. You can do safety glasses, or have had groups of people coming in, sometimes even as a pickleball team, getting sports glasses or getting safety glasses to protect their eyes.
A message on safety Scavarelli says he will give to the new players so they too can enjoy the sport he loves. Alex Carper, CTV News, Winnipeg.
After the break, sleepless in Seattle. How Jays fans are readying for Game 4 stateside. Blue Jays fans have a reason to celebrate after bats came alive in Seattle yesterday, giving the team a convincing win in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series. But that was yesterday. What about today? CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson is in Seattle. Okay, Andrew, fingers crossed the Jays tie the series with a win tonight.
Yes, Sandy, and how things have changed in just one day. Yesterday's blowout Toronto triumph has positioned the team to tie this up. And Jays fans here, well, they're officially ecstatic.
One for Canada!
At Seattle's famous Pike Place Fish Market, the atmosphere ahead of ALCS Game 4 is something else.
I think it's pretty electric right now.
Jays fans who made the trip to Washington State are on a high, with the team no longer seemingly swimming upstream.
That was absolutely incredible. And last night they just came out and they suddenly looked like the Jays again. So I was a little worried, I gotta say, but they turned it around.
Turned it around is maybe an understatement to describe the Jays' offensive explosion, fueled by 5 home runs and, after a shaky start, a shutdown performance from pitcher Shane Bieber.
It was fantastic. The energy was great, and there was about 50% Jays fans, it seems. So there was a pretty big Canadian component.
Thousands in the stands again tonight at T-Mobile Park will be Canadians who flew, drove, and ferried across the line to show their passion in person. And the seats don't come cheap.
We pulled them out of school, and they ended up being about $500 Canadian a pop, but it...
Totally worth it. Totally worth it for that experience. So we do it again in a heartbeat.
Come try the smoked Blue Jay, sir.
Now, a chance for Canada's team to bring the series back to Toronto.
With a win tonight or tomorrow, the Jays will guarantee this series goes to at least 6 games and returns to Rogers Centre, where they could secure a World Series berth at home. Sandy.
Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, Andrew, thank you. And thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Omar is here later, Heather tomorrow. But first, your local CTV News is coming up. Bye for now. Be well.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast. Canada's #1 newscast for excellence in journalism.
We begin tonight with breaking news.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best National Newscast. Watch weeknights at 11